Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the realization of really, I thought, a terrific suggestion from one of you commenters, and I'm very grateful for the suggestion. You noted that I had done a talk on, the 10 box sets we most need, and you said, well, don't you do the 10 greatest box sets that we have? And I said, oh, that's a good idea. That's a terrific idea. Although I couldn't limit it to 10. I had to do 12. I have to do the 12 greatest box sets of all time. And the way I chose them, it's kind of interesting how it worked out. I don't believe in spending too much time thinking about this, because if you're going to pick the best, I think it should be what spontaneously comes to mind. You shouldn't have to agonize. If you have to work really, really, really hard, like staying up all night, racking your brains, thinking about it, then you're probably not finding the best choices, because the best choices are the obvious choices. They're the ones that just pop into your head and say, oh yeah, it's got to be that. So these are the 12. And when I was thinking about it, these 12 popped up and I said, it's got to be that. And so here they are. And it turns out that they fell rather neatly into 3 groups of 4. They are 4 conductors and 4 devoted to specific artists, mostly keyboard artists, as it turns out. I should have done maybe a violinist or 2, but or string something, but it doesn't work out that way. And I think the reason is because of Pipo, my cat, because she hates violins. And I realized finally, because she's, I know when she hates something, because she either runs away or throws up or does something quite obvious. But of course, she can't exactly verbalize her disgust. It's because of catgut. It's because the instruments themselves use catgut. That's why she hates them so much. I'm so happy to have figured that out. But anyway, so there are 4 that are sort of artist-based, and 4 that are composer/repertoire based. And that's kind of how they fell. And this was not by intention at all. This is just, I looked at the 12 that I picked, rather spontaneously, and they fell into these sort of categories. So I think that that's kind of really interesting. I really do. And we're going to begin then with the artist and repertoire based choices. And now remember something else. These may be the 12 greatest box sets in the history of mankind. However, they're not necessarily my favorites. I love them all. I really like them all. Do I listen to them the most? Not necessarily. And are they my personal favorites? Not necessarily. This comes up a lot in the comments and in the discussions. You have to remember that when I put these things together, as a professional critic, I have a responsibility to not just take my own personal preferences into account, which of course I do. It's very important, but it's one of many other factors. And those other factors are the importance of the repertoire, the importance of the discography, the release in terms of the discography generally, what I think you as listeners should be hearing, what the critical consensus is, and my personal preference. But it's a professional obligation I'm undertaking, not a personal one, except for the fact that I just love personally to do these talks, and I love speaking to you all. That's personal, obviously. But when I make these choices, I'm doing them to try and make a point about what the general discography is and what the performances say about our musical life, and how you as listeners can best acquire collections which are well-rounded and comprehensive and really represent the best of what's out there. So it's a little bit different than just saying, I like this one, I like that one, I like that, and that's how one of the reasons why I think we sometimes have these debates in the comments section, because my grounds for selection are not just what I like. And you should know that. It's what I like, plus with all of these other constraints and considerations. I got to watch my elbows. I'm like surrounded by boxes. There's like a fortress of boxes all around me. So let's start. I don't know. What should we start with? Let's start with repertoire. Let's start with the repertoire ones, the 4 composers/repertoire. And I'm going to begin with one that may surprise you, but it's really hot stuff and marvelous. That's this. This is the Harmonia Mundi Baroque Opera Box. This sucker has got, I don't even know what's in it. I mean, it's so big. No, it's 39 CDs, 3 DVDs, and 1 CD-ROM. And I'm going to tell you what's in it. It's really extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It's a whole new repertoire that has only come back into favor in the past few decades. And Harmonia Mundi was one of the leaders in reviving this repertoire on disc. And it's extraordinary. You have great artists who have basically reinvented an entire medium for us, that of Baroque opera, which everyone said to us was obsolete and worthless and, passé. And they've shown, among other things, that that's all bull. That what matters is actually having great singers. And we'll have more on that anon quite shortly. But what do you get in this? You get madrigal comedies. You get Monteverdi's Orfeo, and Monteverdi's The Coronation of Poppaea, and Cavalli's La Callisto, and Scarlatti's Griselda. That's from Italy. And from France, you get Lully, Attis, Charpentier's Médée, Charpentier's La Malade Imaginaire, Campra's Idomenée, and Rameau's Les Indes Galantes. I mean, this is all great stuff. These are all masterpieces that nobody was paying attention to at all. And then let's see what else. England, John Blow, Venus and Adonis, Purcell, Dido and Aeneas. Dido and Aeneas, I know, we all call it that. I'm sorry. Dido and Aeneas. Dido and Aeneas. I'm not even going to say what we call the Dido part that goes with the Aeneas. You all know what it is. It's so embarrassing. But I'm not editing it out because it's also hilariously funny. All right. Handel's Rinaldo, Handel's Flavio, and a DVD of Handel's Giulio Cesare. I mean, the Handel revival alone, the revival of Handel operas, is one of the great events in the history of 20th century recordings and 20th century music, the second half of the 20th century. If there was an enormous box of just Handel's operas, that would probably be on my list. I love Handel's operas, I have to tell you. They're great. They're absolutely great. He's fabulous. We're going to talk about bunches of them at one point or another. And then we have Germany. There's a bunch of Ouverturen. And then we have, Kaiser's Croesus, and Telemann's Orpheus, and Graun's Cleopatra et Cesare, which is quite similar to Handel's Giulio Cesare in Egitto. So, I mean, the Harmonia Mundi Baroque Opera Box, it's I can't even tell you not only how important it is, but how enjoyable it is, how much great music there is in there, and how wrong it proves the naysayers who said that Baroque opera was dead. It ain't dead. It's marvelous. It's still around. So that's one. The next one is a little closer to home and easier to take. These are balanced precariously. The Haydn symphonies with Antal Dorati. I mean, come on. What else could it be? And I know there are people out there, they're smart asses. It's like, oh, there's Merzendorfer. Oh, there's Fischer. Oh, there's nonsense. The only one that matters in terms of discographic importance is this one, the complete Haydn symphonies. Why? Because it's still the only Haydn cycle that was released by a single conductor with a single orchestra on a major label that had major international distribution with booklets and notes by H.C. Robbins Landon. If Decca were smart, they would remaster this, put it in a gorgeous box with the original notes, and flog the living daylights out of it. I mean, we're only talking about the most important series of orchestral works in all of Western civilization. I mean, bar none. And people just don't want to admit that or get it into their head. And this is the series of recordings that made the point. And it still does. It truly does. They're marvelous performances. I know you're going to like some better than others. And, you quibble however you will. There is no finer or more important and more enjoyable set of the Haydn symphonies than this one, and none that are more important in the history of boxed set world. I mean, this is a boxed set for the ages. It really is. It could not be more significant musically or more enjoyable. So there's that one. Next, Hensler's C.P.E. Bach edition. This is the rediscovery of, again, it's like the Baroque revival of Baroque opera. I mean, C.P.E. Bach was a major, major, major composer who was a footnote in the history books that, yes, he was a major, 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 major composer who no one listens to, but we should. And these recordings, this Hensler edition, even more importantly, I think, than its complete Bach edition, because other people did that, shows you what an independent label can do. And you know, they did this in connection with the complete works that are still being issued by the Packard Humanities Institute. It's an incredibly rewarding and important and enjoyable musical experience. The highlight of this particular set is the complete keyboard works played by Anna Maria Markovina, an extraordinary series of recordings, just remarkable in every way. We're going to be featuring them. I'm going to be playing you samples. We're going to do a whole thing about them at one point. But, you know, C.P.E. Bach was the Bach. He was more important than his dad. He was the really seminal composer of instrumental music in the middle of the 18th century, from, you know, the 1840s to the 1860s and 70s. There wasn't anybody to touch him. And he was completely neglected. Completely. It couldn't have been, you know, it's just ridiculous. And so this set is just, it's a marvel. It's a marvel, and it contains so much great music. I mean, you could spend a lifetime just listening to this stuff. You really could. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I mean, you know, if it hadn't existed, I would have been able to write my book about C.P.E. Bach because you couldn't hear the music. So what was the point, you know? But now it's all been recorded and it's available and we can savor it. And it is the only series of the complete keyboard works of C.P.E. Bach. There is no other still, no matter how many fine, you know, discs there are, bits of it. Markovina on Hensler is the way to go for C.P.E. Bach. And it was critically important in filling in just, you know, this enormous hole in our knowledge, in our musical knowledge. Next, in the composer and repertoire area, and this is the last one of these, Stravinsky. It's the Stravinsky box. I mean, you know, Stravinsky does Stravinsky. Now, we know Stravinsky wasn't a great conductor. Not all the performances are the best, but I mean, Stravinsky was arguably the most important composer of the entire 20th century, and he had recorded or supervised or approved an edition of his complete works. And what could be more important than that? And, you know, I mean, the fact that it was done at all is something of a miracle. It's never going to be done again. I mean, I was considering also the Benjamin Britten box, you know, on Decca, because there's another case where a composer supervised, you know, basically authorized and marvelous. You know, the quality of Britten's recordings of his own music is higher than Stravinsky doing his own music, but Britten's not as important a composer. And you know, and I think that project followed very much in the footsteps of this one. So in terms of, you know, historical significance and artistic significance, I mean, you know, again, I mean, it's like the Haydn box. It's like, come on, folks. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You can't not pick this. You can't. It must be in the list. And so there, I got to find a place to put it now. So the Stravinsky on Sony, Stravinsky does Stravinsky. Major, major stuff. Now, let's look at artists. Oh, my goodness. What a lot of artists. All right. I'm going to start with a biggie, a real biggie. Oh, this is major stuff, too. The Maria Callas box on Warner. Maria, the complete remastered Maria Callas, because the sound is just so much better than any previous release of her work. Now, Maria Callas, you know, I'm not an kooky opera guy. I'm not a kooky. I'm not an opera-file nut job, you know, singer person. You know, that's not me. But you know, I respect great musicianship. I love opera. I mean, Maria Callas is an artist whose voice was weird. You either like it or you don't like it. Sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't. But here's the point. She single-handedly, as with these repertoire things, restored the bel canto repertoire to the international operatic stage. And she proved something else, even more than that Harmonia Mundi box, which is sort of repertoire-based, and that's this. It's that opera is about great singing. I know that may be a novel concept. It's not about conductors. It's not about, period instruments. It's not about any of those things. If you don't have the singers, you don't have opera. And Maria Callas was a one-woman revival. Then, of course, Joan Sutherland came along and Marilyn Horne, and they all built on what she achieved. But, and she was a one-woman revival because she was a great singer, a great musician who was a great singer. She was the ultimate Kunstdiva, an intelligent, penetrating musician whose instrument happened to be the human voice. And a very fallible instrument it was, as it turns out. But, in terms of its impact on our musical life and on our appreciation of what opera could be and what opera can do, Maria Callas is essential. I mean, 20th century music would not be the same without her. And that's just as true of the Baroque revival and everything else, because none of that would have happened had it not been, I believe, for the fact that she demonstrated that these obsolete styles and obsolete forms were not at all. It was all about great singing. And, the truth of the matter is that, most of the arguments we heard against these bel canto operas and these Baroque operas is that they're all formulaic and they're not stage-worthy. That's nonsense. I mean, stage-worthiness is a function of the imagination of the producer. And an imaginative production can make, reading the telephone directory stage-worthy, right? I mean, it doesn't make any difference. It's all about how smart you are in putting the production together. But if you don't have great singing, then it doesn't make any difference what you do. You can go to and watch the sets revolve and whatever. It's still going to be a dog. And so Maria Callas, we owe a debt of gratitude of the highest degree. And her recorded legacy is one of the most magnificent and important recorded legacies by any artist in the entire 20th century. So the Maria Callas box, I mean, it's just got to be in my list. When I was thinking of my top 12, I'm thinking, what should it be? It's like, Maria Callas. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? Also, for me, and this may surprise you, let's see if I can pronounce this. This is Suzanne Rozhkova. I did it! Rozhkova. Yeah, I think that's right. Her complete Bach recordings on Errata, which is a very recent release. And when this came out, I was thrilled. Why is this important? First of all, because she is a great, great, great artist whose reputation was largely obscured because she was stuck in communist Czechoslovakia for most of her career. She had the most extraordinary life. I mean, an unbelievable life. I mean, she was interned in 3 different concentration camps because she was Jewish. She survived forced labor. Her hands were destroyed. She came back and became one of the great, great keyboard artists of the 20th century. She made most of her recordings for Superphone. They didn't circulate in the West. She did the complete Bach on Errata, which also didn't circulate much. And what I like about her so much, what I think is so important about her as a musician, is that she doesn't do Bach on the harpsichord because it's authentic. She does Bach on the harpsichord because she loves the harpsichord, and she thinks Bach's music sounds best on the harpsichord, and she makes it sound best on the harpsichord. And that is an achievement. She's not interested in finding an authentic harpsichord and letting the instrument speak for her. She uses this Gesundta harpsichord, this big instrument with lots of stops, multiple keyboards, and tons of color. I mean, she believes that Bach's music should be colorful, that it should sing, that it should be freely ornamented. I mean, she plays it like she's composing it as she goes. Some people may not like her approach. I don't care. Whether you like it or not is irrelevant. She is an absolutely special authority in the music of Bach and I think in the keyboard artistry of the 20th century. I think for her contribution to the literature, for her ability to show us that the harpsichord is an expressive, intensely expressive instrument without resorting to any period instrument folderol. She just does it because she thinks it's right, and she makes it sound right. So, Suzanne Rozhkova on Erato, doing the complete Bach, an extraordinary, extraordinary musical experience by one of the great unsung artists of the 20th century. And I'm happy to be able to give her the attention that she deserves now that she's just recently passed away. This set should never be out of print, ever, 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 ever. It's that great and that important. So I think that, oh no, we have two more artists. What are those two artists? Yes, we did Maria Callas, we did Rozhkova. Now, here's another one that may surprise you. Leslie Howard, the complete Liszt on Hyperion. I mean, I love this set. I really do. In my 10 classical music's 10 dirtiest secrets, I said Liszt is trash. Well, I have to modify that in light of this thing coming out. Liszt was not a human being. Liszt was an algorithm. Liszt was an algorithm. You just took all of 19th century music and fed it into the Listomatic, and out came a piano transcription of it. He's a human algorithm, I'm telling you. And, one of the things that Leslie Howard's set showed to us for the first time was just how extraordinary, how unbelievable Liszt was, not only as a composer of his own music, but as a promoter of other music. I mean, really, it's unbelievable. This is like the Bach set to end all Bach sets, because it's all of 19th century music designed to be played at home. I mean, Liszt was a Bach set on paper. I mean, that's what he was. And you can hear it all in this extraordinary box. Now, again, you might not like all the performances equally. You could argue that Leslie Howard's interpretations are not always the most compelling, and some of them are and some of them aren't. But some of them are amazing. I mean, the one that always comes to mind when I think about this set is his recording of Liszt's complete transcription of Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique. Berlioz is, the great orchestrator of the Romantic era. You would think his music wouldn't work on the piano. Just listen to Leslie Howard play the Symphonie Fantastique. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And Liszt's transcriptions and arrangements, I really think they're more important than his original works, or a lot of his original works. And that's what most of this stuff is. It really is. It's an astonishing achievement, and we never would have known it. Never. Had it not been for Hyperion. Again, it's another one of those projects where an independent label shows us what can be done. I mean, what there was still to do in the world of music. And I love this set. I love this set. I really, really do. The only problem with it is that the box is a little flimsy. I have it sort of taped together here so that it doesn't fall apart. But wow. What an important project this was. And, in terms of musical revelations per minute of playing time, there's nothing more fascinating. Nothing. I mean, how many CDs is it? Does it tell us? Yes, it must tell us here somewhere. Oh, yeah, 90 something. 98 compact discs and bonus discs. 98 compact discs, 98 CDs worth of Liszt. It's mind-blowing. It really is. So there's that one. And then last but not least, for our artist-based boxes, is this Megillah here. Claudio Arrau, the complete Phillips, which are now Decca recordings. Claudio Arrau, there were many great pianists in the 20th century. I could have chosen perhaps the Rubinstein box, but I just think what Arrau did, it's almost like you get all of 19th century piano music in a box. I mean, you get Beethoven, everything, and it's all equally great. Beethoven, Chopin, Liszt, Schumann, Debussy, even some Mozart. I mean, it's really an unbelievable achievement. And of course, Arrau's pedigree goes from all the way back to from Martin Krauss, or whatever his name was, his teacher. His name was Krauss. It was Martin. I don't know. All the way back to Liszt himself. I think that, and another tremendous musician who happened to be a pianist. I mean, just a great serious musician who did unbelievable recordings of just an amazingly wide variety of music. And so my choice for, if I had to, like, die and only had a choice of having one piano box of stuff, it would be this, because of the quality of performance and the range of repertoire is just second to none. I mean, really is second to none. At some point, I'm sure Hyperion will release a Marc-Andre Hamelin box, which would have easily made it into the pile if they'd done it. But if they release a Marc-Andre Hamelin box, that means that Marc-Andre Hamelin is not making more recordings. So I would rather they wait. And since he's much younger than I am, I'll probably be dead before it happens. But you younger folk, I'm telling you, in a few decades, look forward to the Marc-Andre Hamelin box. That leads me to one other sort of reflection about this topic. CDs are on their way out. So I feel in doing these boxes that it's almost kind of a retrospective activity, because when everything goes digital, we're not going to have boxes. There's just going to be digits. There's just going to be ones and zeros. Lots and lots of all these recordings will just be out there in the digisphere. And so we won't have this opportunity to see them all in one collection. And I'm very interested to know sort of how record labels and other people deal with the question of putting together, artist retrospectives and collections of repertoire like this. I don't know how they're going to do it. I on the one hand, it offers an opportunity, because theoretically you could put them together yourself, making your own playlist from, artists, especially like Charles McCarris, let's say, who you can't really have a box because he's on a zillion different labels. You'd have to gather them all together, and that might become possible. But on the other hand, not having these beautiful boxes with the booklets and the presentation, and you could pet them and stroke them. Oh, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it terribly. Now, let's talk about conductors. I have 4. And it's actually kind of interesting because 3 of them all involve sort of French repertoire. They're not the German guys at all. But they're the conductors who I think have contributed the most overall. And I don't know what to tell you. I think maybe personal favoritism, weighed more heavily in these selections than in any of these others. But here they are. Let's start. Jean Martinon, the Erato box. Now, this is because not only excellence of performance, but also the rarity of the repertoire. Again, this is in the entirety of French Romantic and early 20th century music, basically, a sample of everything in performances that in many ways haven't been surpassed. It's that simple. I mean, where else are you going to find all this stuff? The Roussel, Pierre Ney, Marcel Landowski, Poulenc, Chausson, Dukas, Honegger, Ibert, Florent Schmitt. And there's also Tchaikovsky and Brahms and Schumann and Lalo and Faya and Bartok and Berlioz. And it's such a great set. Martinon was such a great conductor. We all, we talk about him. I'm preaching to the converted here when I talk about him. But this set, I think if you're going to have, this is the Martinon box you need to get. Along with the Chicago recordings and the Debussy Ravel box, because none of that's in here, but we're going to cover some of that elsewhere anyway. I just think this is extraordinary musicianship, and the importance of French repertoire. No country has done worse by its patrimony than has France, because it's all sort of centralized and bureaucratic, and so it's run from a corporate mentality. And once after the Second World War, when the academic serialists and the avant-garde took over, they shat on all of this stuff. And so it doesn't get played very often. It wasn't performed very often. We are so lucky to have this. We really are. It's just an extraordinary, important box, set of recordings. So that's Martinon. Love it. Next, the Cluytens box by Andre Cluytens, the guy nobody can pronounce. We've gone back and forth about this. Is it Cluytens? Is it Cluytens? Is it Cluytens? Is it Cluy? I don't know. I don't care. He was a great conductor, and this is one of the most beautifully compiled boxes that Warner has done. It's half mono, half stereo. You've got all those wonderful French orchestras. You've got the Paris Conservatory Orchestra doing the complete Ravel. You've got his Beethoven cycle with the Berlin Philharmonic. It's just an extraordinary achievement. 65 CDs, again, by a conductor who isn't always given the credit that he deserves, because he did a lot of music that other people did who were more famous. But in terms of musical integrity and performance values, it's hard to beat this. It really is, even if no one can pronounce him. It's a remarkable, remarkable achievement. And, when I think of, great conductor boxes, great conductor sets, what comes to mind? Cluytens, Andre. Gotta have it. The next conductor box that I chose was Munch. Oh, we love Munch. Munch is so great. Munch and mostly Boston. Oh, what a legacy this is, isn't it? Now, I could have picked like Reiner. I could have picked like Walter. There are so many conductor boxes out there, right? There's Karajan, there's Bernstein. They're all extraordinary. But I think, again, I'm looking for consistent quality over time, and also interest of repertoire and just sheer force of personality. Munch was just great. And I think this box is just one of those things to cherish. It really, really is. It's amazing. There's so many things in here. I mean, for his Berlioz alone. But also he did great Beethoven, he did great Brahms, he did great Schubert, he did great, and his concerto collaborators, you've got Heifetz, you've got, it's superlatives don't do it justice. They really don't. It's just an amazing set. And this is becoming a workout. One more to go. You ready? Are you really ready? Here it comes. I'm sure this will not come as a surprise, but, Oh! Yes, indeed. George Szell. George Szell. La crème de la crème. If you're looking, first of all, I picked this one because finally, after doing all of this interesting repertoire, and, I'm very repertoire driven. I like to have interesting music. I'm not as interested in seeing the same thing 400 times over and over again, So this is the set to get because it has absolutely the highest quality performances of the standard repertoire. You get your Brahms cycle, your Schumann cycle, your Beethoven cycle, all that's a fabulous, unbeatable Mozart, amazing Haydn. It's all in here. It's all in the Szell Cleveland box and other orchestras that he worked with. And so, I think that on any short list of the greatest boxes in the history of our galaxy, or maybe the entire universe, you have to have the Szell Sony box. And, I don't know if it's still around. It's a limited edition. If you didn't get it, I don't know what to tell you. You may have to wait for the digibits to show up so you can collect it piecemeal. But, you haven't lived unless you have the George Szell box. It is so, so fabulous. You can dip into it anywhere. His Dvorak, his Tchaikovsky, oh my God, he does a great La Mer. He's just, there's nothing in there that's not to love practically. And I think with that, there's nothing that can be followed after talking about the Szell box. Those are the 12 greatest box sets in the history of the universe, bar none. I really think if you have these 12 boxes, you've got one hell of a record collection already. So anyway, that's the choice. That's the list. More than enough reason to keep on listening. Thank you for joining me on this survey, and thank you for suggesting that I do it. I have had such a good time going through these things, pulling them out, sampling discs again, stroking them and petting them and playing with them. Oh God, it's so much fun. I mean, it's a physical thrill. So take care. All the best. Bye-bye.